Welcome back to Country Basket Weaving. I'm your hostess, Sandy Atkinson, and today we're going to be working on our Valentine Hearts basket in celebration of February. The material that you're going to need for this basket is as follows. 1/4 inch flat, dyed red, cut 18 pieces 36 inches long. 1/4 inch flat oval, dyed red, cut 18 pieces 36 inches long. 1/4 inch flat oval, leave it natural, cut 6 pieces 36 inches long. You're going to need number 2 round, left natural, 3/16 flat, dye that a real dark red. You're going to need 1 piece of 1 1/8 inch tulip poplar. We're going to leave that natural. Okay, to get started, to save time, I've already laid out the base, most of it anyway. And here we have, underneath your spoke weight, you're going to lay 3 of your red pieces. Mark the centers first. Of course, we're going to mark the centers on the wrong side, so the wrong side is facing up. Lay out your 3 red, 3 natural, and then 6 red. Across the middle, you're going to weave, but just below the center line, weave your 3 natural. And then I'm going to weave this last one in for you, and above it, you're going to weave 6 red, so that you have a little plaid shape coming in through here. The last piece, I've already marked the center. I'm going to weave it in. My oval side is down. Again, this is just a basic basket weave. Line up my centers and pull this up. This part of it's not very hard at all. You can handle the layout, I think, without seeing me do the whole thing. Then take your tape measure, and we want this to be 9 1/4 inches square. So measure it in all directions. Looks like I'm just a hair off down this way, so take a minute, pull these down, make any needed adjustments, and when you have 9 1/4, then go ahead and clamp it with your clothespins. Use 1 at each corner. Don't need the spoke weight anymore. Now bring this whole unit so that your white pieces, your natural pieces, are crossing like this, so they're closest to you. Come back up here, and we're going to unweave so that we can create the crown of the heart. We're going to pick up these 3 and bring this one over. Pick up these 2. We're going to, what I like to call, back weave, unweave the portion. Almost there. We're going to do it for 4 spokes. I'm sorry, 5 spokes. We have 5 spokes unwoven on this side and 5 on this side. You're going to need to put your clothespins back on it too to hold it together until we get to the twining. We're going to twine around this whole base, and I have in here soaking some number 2 round. I like to start with a longer piece, although this one's kind of short. You can start with a longer one. Divide it in half. I want 2 different end lengths. Use your needle nose pliers and crimp this again so it breaks down those fibers. This time we're just going to single twine, starting over here. I'm going to give this a little bit of a turn. I'm going to start over here on the right side. I like to start again an underweave, so we're going to pick up this piece. It's an underweave. Start with our natural piece here. Loop our reed over it. The one on the left is going to go behind, in front of the one and behind the next spoke. Pull it down tight. Pick up the one on the left. Again, you're always picking up the piece on the left. And I just pulled it apart. Readjust it. The one on the left goes behind the next spoke. And again, you're going to have to watch your corners. This one is an irregular corner. See how that comes down in there? So pull it aside. Bring this right one around first. Pardon me, the left one, then come and get the right one and pull it across. Go ahead and work this all the way around. And I'm going to pull out the next basket and show you how to do this part up in here. Now that I've up here and I've turned my corner, I'm getting a real short piece here. I would like to have it end on the left, so I'm going to twine 1 more, and I'm going to add a new piece here. So I take out a wet piece. I don't have to crimp it this time. We're going to pick up the short piece here and insert the new end right down into there. We're going to keep on weaving. Don't pull it too hard or you'll pull that right out. Another thing I like to do is sometimes I'll pull these back and get them out of my way so I can do that center. And use a clothespin and clamp it off down here. Come up here and I'm going to finish twining. Now that I'm around here, I'm going to do just a twist in here, and that's going to make that center go around smoother. Okay? I need to release these. Bring up the ones on the left side and pin those out of the way. Come back here and make that little twist, and then pick up where I was on twining. Give this a little push down to keep it off flat in here. I'm back to my corner. Be careful, watch your adjustments. Keep that base at 9 1/4. And you may have to stop and remeasure there too, and that's fine to do. Here I have another corner. This is a regular corner. Just bring the white one up, the one on the right, and break the left one around. And keep right on going. You're going to twine around here for 3 rows. Okay? On this one I've already done that. And I don't know if you noticed in the finished basket, but we have a pattern built into the base here. Here I finished my 3 rows. I've just got my tails hanging. I'll clamp them, or pardon me, I'll trim them off later. And then I went ahead and I put in a pretty little pattern with the cross weaving here. And I left one to show you how to do it. I've got a bad end on this, so I'm going to simply cut that out. These are woven between the weavers, not under them, but between them. So I'm going to go between them. Up here I've come across, and on my 4th one I've started at the crown of my heart and went across. Then from corner to corner I set a great big one across. Then I dropped down 3 and did this one, and I'm going to drop down 3 again. Actually I'm starting here, but I will end up here with the end, and it's just a little easier to do this way. Make sure your reed is very wet, because you're going to have to put some pressure on these bends, kind of make it do what it's not intended to do. And I'm going to come across here. I'm going between the weavers to create that design. And this end I'm going to slide right under there. If you notice, I have a little angle cut on that end. That will lay underneath there, and we're going to hide it. Then I'm going to come back here, cut off this excess length, and again I'm cutting it at an angle. Pick up your piece, your spoke over here. You can use a tool. It's probably easier than your fingers. Slide that under there, and that just creates a nice little pattern on the bottom. I have my twining done, so now I'm ready to upset. This base is good and wet, which it really needs to be good and wet. And just a little tip too is I put a lot of salt in my soaking water, and that allows, it helps so that the reed, the dyed reed, doesn't run as much. Unfortunately with red you're going to get some running, so try to keep your pieces, like your white and your natural pieces and your red pieces, keep them apart as much as you can. Don't slide the red across the white. The natural pieces. Pin up all your corners, and we're going to get ready and do, after I pin up all the corners, I'm going to start my first row. Now that I have my sides all pinned up, my corners pinned up, I have a piece of the 3/16 dyed the dark red. I have a kind of a rough end, so I'm going to just give that a snip off. Working over here, oh, let's work on this side. I like to start going this way to the right. Again, I'm going to come back to my original pattern here and weave opposite of that one. I'm over here, so I'm going to be underneath that one. Double check and make sure you have the right side of your reed out, the nice smooth side, always starting on the spoke, on top, on the outside, and then it's just a simple over one, under one, over one, all the way around the basket. It's real easy with these narrow spokes to make mistakes, so just take your time and go around. If you end up going over 2, then you'll have to go back and correct it. Take your pins off when you come to them. Weave over and under. And I like to put some of these pins back on. It just helps hold the shape because it's real sloppy right now. And it's going to be that way till I get to about my 4th, 5th row, somewhere in there, and then it'll start holding itself together real nicely. Again, I'm putting my corner back on. And when I come to a corner, lots of corners on this basket, when I come to my corners, take them off and pin them, repin them when you go around the corner. Keep packing this in. Watch your corners. Don't be too loose or too tight at your corners. It should just go around real smooth. When I'm back in here, now this is that point, that center point in my heart, I'm going to have to be real conscious about keeping a nice round point there so I don't pull it. So make sure that stays right there on that twist with our where we did our twining. And you probably have to find a place to clamp it in there to hold it, and then just continue weaving around the basket. And I'm going to put the corner back up, and then I'll show you, I'll go to the next step and I'll show you how we end it. Now that I'm back to where I started, I need to take off my clothespin, and hopefully I'm on the same weave as where I started the piece. If not, then obviously I've made a mistake and I need to go back, find the mistake and correct it, because we need to end coming right on top of where we started. That hides that end. Weave over 4. This is 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to hide the end under this spoke here. Clip it, cut it right off, the longest length without it showing beyond the edge. I need to go just a hair shorter, slide that end under there, and I put a clamp on it to hold it because it needs something to secure it. Give the basket about a 1/4 of a turn, come over to the other side, and we're going to start our new piece. Again, check on the piece, make sure that the right side is up, and we're going to be opposite weave, and I like to do this little back weave. Again, I must always start on the outside of the spoke, and I'm going to weave over and under. Again, this is opposite weave of the first row, and the very same way. Continue to weave around the basket. Watch your little center part here. Make sure you keep this nice and smooth down in there. Weave all the way around, overlap 4. You need to do 6 rows. Now that I've finished my 6 rows, I've re-wet my basket. Keep everything nice and wet while you work. Looks like I have a little one popping out here. Just stick it back underneath there. I have 6 rows woven. Now I'm going to put in our tulip poplar piece. And this is just an accent piece on the basket. You can, when it's done, you can stencil on this or write on it or just leave it plain, whatever. It's just an accent piece. Because this is a wood and you want to protect the wood grain, just dip it in your water and run it across your towel. Don't soak anything that is made out of the woods, any of the wood grains. And I'm going to take the piece, and I like to start again over here on this, my left side of the basket, and I'm going to do this in over 2, under 2, because I want lots of space in here so that I could stencil on this or paint on it or do something. I'm opposite of my weave here, and again I'm back here on 2. When you work with weaving in a piece of wood, bring the spokes out to you. So I'm over 2 here, I'm behind 2, but you see how I'm bringing the spokes out so I don't have to put a lot of stress on this piece of wood. Again, use lots of clothespins, work this piece around, pack it in tight as you go, but don't push down on it too tight or you will crack the wood. Add your clothespins. Watch your corners as you go around these corners. Watch that piece of wood. It's damp enough where it's going to go around your corners smoothly. It doesn't have to be forced. And I'm going to bend it back this way because I'm almost at that center. Make sure I have 2 behind. The next 2 I'm going to pick up and bring in front. Trying not to do too much moving of the red on this white piece because I don't want the dies to come off. Reds, again, are one of the hardest colors, but they're one of the prettiest colors to work with. I'm going to do a lot of pinning on this, always counting over 2, under 2. And I have a broken spoke. This will be a good place to show you how to repair that. That was not intentional, but we'll work with it. Okay, I'm back to where I started. Here's where I started. I'm going to overlap in sets of 4 now, not spokes. So this is one set. I'm behind the next set. And then I'm going to hide behind this set over here. I'm going to cut this end off, maybe just a little bit shorter, to hide that end behind this narrow red spoke. Okay? Now, with this broken spoke, let me get a scrap piece. I think I have one right here. And we will repair that. If that should happen, it probably won't happen if you keep everything really wet. But if it should happen, this is a good lesson on how to repair. I'm going to cut off the broken spoke. I'm going to be in front here. I don't need to work with all this length. Let me cut off some length. I measured it from here. I'm going to hide it underneath this weaver here. So bring it up and give it about the same height. We can get rid of that length there. I'm in front, so I'm going to stay in front of here. Taking my flathead screwdriver, lift this up, place it on top of the spoke. Get that to work down in there. And work it right under, right on top of the spoke. I like to go one more. And it's sliding off. I'm going to let it slide off. And then I'm going to pull it over. Hide it underneath this weaver here and pull this over on top of the broken off spoke. Then you can just continue on. Okay? Now that that's been repaired, we're going to do 6 more rows the very same way around the top. Okay? After you get your tulip poplar piece in, and hopefully no broken spokes, then you're going to take another piece of your 3/16 in your dark red, and we're going to weave in the top part here. I'm over on the opposite side because I don't like to put my overlaps together. And because I did this over 2, under 2, the pattern is going to seem a little bit strange as you weave this top piece in, but it's only for this top piece. And just weave it in over 1, under 1, going back to your original pattern, and work it around the basket. Pull everything tight. Should be able to leave off some of these pins now. We're far enough up on it. And if you need to, like here, there's that one little piece that keeps popping out. Let's stick it back under there again. I think when it's dry, that piece is going to be okay. And just keep pulling this all tight. Have everything packed in tight. Continue to weave. The next 6 rows are exactly done, exactly as the same as the bottom 6. So get the next 6 rows done. I've already done that on the next basket. And then I twined again 2 rows. Actually, it's going to be 3. I was going to show you how to end it. So I have 2.5 rows done. Take off my clamps. And again, this is just twining where you're coming on, picking the one up from the left, going behind the next spoke, work your way around the basket. When you are back to where you started, we're simply going to trim off the ends. We're going to pull them inside the basket. This is where I started. Right here's my loop. So I'm going to end on the one before it. If I started to twine on this one, I'd be starting my next row. And I only want 3 rows on the top of here. There's my 3 rows. Cut off my ends, leaving about 1 to 2 inches, and simply place them inside the basket. Okay? Now we're going to start that top braid. Before you do that, just kind of look at your basket, make sure everything's packed in tight. And we're going to start the top braid. Using a tape measure, measure up here about 1.5 inches. You can put a little pencil mark here. That'll help you remember where you're at. And doing this top braid, it's really a fun braid to do. There's my pencil mark. I'm going to put my bend going into the basket. I'm going to be behind the first spoke, on the right of it, in front of the next one, behind the next, in front and behind. So I'm going to be weaving over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spokes coming out between the 5th and the 6th. Come back over here and we're going to pick up this next spoke and we're going to weave it behind, always starting behind the next spoke, in front, behind. It's just an over-under. Again, weaving over 5, and these should be laying on top of each other. Come up here. I could measure each one of these at 1.5, but I can kind of eyeball them too. Always behind. This white reed coming up here will make a real pretty stripe on the basket, on the top of it. Again, giving that a turn, going behind, and weaving over 5. And this is just repetitious, just always picking up that one and weaving around. Let me do a couple more for you. Now I'm going to finish this off and go to the next basket where it's finished off and show you how to end it when you get back to here. On this next one I have it all finished, almost finished, the top border, but see how pretty that's coming out? To finish the border, we're still following the same pattern. I'm going behind and working my way around, but now this is the very first spoke that I turned under, so I'm going to have to go behind it and through it. Pack everything down tight, start the next one, always bending it to the behind, to the back. I have to go through this one and then through this one on the back. So I went through the front and back. In other words, you have to weave in the rest of the length from the braid. Again, I'm right here, I'm coming to the front, I have to go into the back and then out to the front. A couple more here to do. Behind the spoke to the right of it, then weave in the spoke, and then come and get the very last one, and I have to work it in. Now I have to be between this spoke here because that's the one before it. Work it back and forth one more time and then out through here. You can do yours a little bit slower. I think I just split my reed, so I'm going to have to go back and correct that spoke because I split it. But you take your time so you won't have that problem. Now, we obviously need to do some trimming. The first trimming I'm going to do is to come in here, and I'm just to the right of my spoke, my upright there, and I'm just trimming these straight up. You can do that all the way around the basket. Trim them straight up. It'll give you a nice edge on there. And the shape needs to be worked on. It's not sitting real flat. Come in here and pull up the sides and push down the inside. Kind of play with it, get it to shape, get it to sit straight. And it'll happen. You may even have to put a weight in here, something heavy, and let it dry with something heavy on it. Take your scissors, and I have back here some of these tails that we've talked about. We need to come in here and we need to just at an angle cut trim these back, and on the same thing on the inside, trim them all back. So do the trimming. After the trimming is all done, you'll have the basket, your basket, all trimmed, and it'll look like this. And you can notice that it's been squared up. It sits a lot nicer now, and you just need to work with that. One thing that I've done for Valentine's Day too is to bake a big chocolate chip cookie and put in this and give it away as a gift. It makes a really lovely gift. Of course, heart's appropriate all year long, not just on Valentine's Day. Next week we're going to be working, because we're going to be working and emphasizing the month of March, and it will be making our shamrock basket. And this is on a wood base. It's a fairly easy basket to do, so I'm planning on having time to talk to you a little bit more about some dyeing techniques. There's some beautiful dyes out there, and I've been getting just gorgeous colors. So I'm looking forward to that with you. Have a really good week and be safe. Bye-bye.